investigation. I want to bring in Brian Levin, professor of criminal justice and criminology at Cal State in San Bernardino, California. Steve Clemens, MSNBC contributor and editor-at-large of The Atlantic, National Journal, and Quartz. Also, here's Michael Allen, former Majority Staff Director of the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence. Steve Clemens, let's start with you. We're getting those reports that ISIS is linking itself through its news agency to this attack. Do you know any more? Are you hearing any more based on your contacts?
No, I'm not hearing any more yet, but it had been reported by the SITE intelligence group that ISIS was taking, or an ISIS-affiliated media publication was taking credit for it. They've taken credit for things in the past where it was there was an incomplete equation, and so it was, as Matt Brady just articulated, it wasn't perfectly clear that that was, in fact, the case. One of the notable things here is we're talking about perpetrators right now. We're not identifying these individuals. That is a big change from the Manchester incident in which intelligence leaked out. So as they are knocking down doors, arresting people, the British authorities know who they're going after, and we will soon see whether those individuals traveled to Syria, traveled to Libya, were trained in various places, and were connected to ISIS or some other group.
Michael, we're now hitting this hour number 26 or so. Where are we in this process of the importance of gathering information, of looking at the forensics? They've just moved away the van earlier today that was allegedly involved in this crime, in this terror incident. Where do you think we are in the arc of the investigation?
I think we're still early. Look, I have a vision here of at Scotland Yard. There are a number of interrogations going on of the associates family and perhaps Confederates of the terrorist here in this case. I kind of imagine that there's a room with sort of a puzzle spilled out onto a gigantic table, and all of the pieces aren't there yet, and they're trying to piece it together. They want to know whether there are connections to other cells. They want to know if there are any other connections to ISIS directly. And they're also looking and cooperating with intelligence services, I believe, around the world, running the names down, trying to figure out their travel history, and trying to get down to the nitty-gritty of who these folks were, how were they radicalized, and most importantly, whether there are any other follow-on attacks.
Follow-on attacks, and they're also going through, as has been reported, they're going to these homes, if you will, looking for more information. Brian Levin, you remember the pictures there in your town of San Bernardino not too long ago, where law enforcement, they were pouring through homes, specifically one home, where, again, those who committed the terror attack were a couple, and so much information was coming out just from that one location. What are some of the comparisons that you are making now with what we're seeing today, early on, of course, based on what happened in San Bernardino when that terror attack happened?
Well, it turned out that they did not have a direct connection. The San Bernardino terrorists were initially radicalized by Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula and actually had planned attacks, at least Saeed Farouk, years earlier, then got cold feet, then went forward with his radicalized wife. In this case, we're still trying to find if there is a greater direct connection to ISIS and whether or not they traveled in theater. The BBC and Evan Coleman, an NBC analyst, is reporting, and I don't want to give the name because I don't want to, we haven't confirmed that, but there's a radical cleric that a friend of one of the dead assailants listened to. So we've seen this kind of thing. Nidal Hassan communicated with Anwar al-Awlaki before doing the Fort Hood massacre, but he didn't travel in theater. And so what we're seeing is encrypted communications sometimes coming up where people are getting the okay or saying, you know, go ahead and do it. One of the interesting things is an issue of Rumya, which just came out in May, talked about doing different types of attacks. But interestingly enough, they talked about executions and kidnappings and hostage holding. So during this time of Ramadan, where ISIS is perverting the faith, saying you get extra points in paradise, we've seen an increase in attacks, not only in England, for instance, but also in places like Afghanistan and Iraq.
Yeah. Steve Clemens, this is an unfortunate benchmark for what a terror attack by definition is. We have Ramadan. We have an election about to happen in just days in the UK. The after effects, the ripple effects here fit in exactly with what these individuals wanted to accomplish here.
Look, terrorists and the people behind them who are pushing them or guiding them or coaching and mentoring these terrorists are performers on a stage. They try and find opportunities to get world attention, to try in this perverse way to look legitimate in the eyes of a certain public they're trying to attract to them. How they create fear, and they want to have overreaction, particularly from societies like the United States, the United Kingdom, France, Belgium, and others, because that overreaction, that overdeployment helps them fuel their story and helps them recruit more. It's an incredibly awful, evil circle that feeds on itself, and I think that's what's been so impressive as we watched, and I was on with you last night,
right.
As you watch the police, as you watch the security officials, as we hear the stories, the methodic way that these security officials are operating in England now, as we listen to the London mayor, the steadiness, the sobriety of it, and the professionalism is an exact opposite of what terrorists want.
Brian, quickly, 30 seconds. The next 3 days, 4 days are going to be very important. As I was mentioning, that election that's happening in the UK, do we expect, and tough question to ask, do we expect more difficulties related to terrorism?
Yes, but here's the thing. Britain has been very successful in rolling up a lot of these attacks. The problem is the least sophisticated are the ones that might be slipping through because they're the least shiny object in the box. So that's what we're seeing. And it's also a sign that ISIS is in trouble, as Malcolm Nance said on your network earlier. The thing is, like a cornered rabid animal, they are now using external operations and telling people, do things where you live with whatever mechanism you have, and that's been their message for some time. Even the guy Al-Adnani, who said that, has been killed, but his message lives on.
Brian Levin, thank you so much, as well as my good friend Steve Clemens, who's been with us for the last 24 hours on this story, as well as Michael Allen. I owe you one, sir, as well. See you a little bit later.